This is the value of wrestling, the revolutionary force in wrestling podcasting.
Oh, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Welcome back. On the big time here in my new studios, in my new setup. Welcome to the show. This is the Dark Side of the Ring review show. We are talking about season 5, episode 4, Saving Face, the Brutus Beefcake Story. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go over that here on this episode. We're going to be live a little bit later right here on The Value of Wrestling. We're going to be live, coming at you live this evening with Mr. Cart, going over your AEW review. We're going to go with your post show on Dynamite, talking about everything that went down on Dynamite. So get excited for that. Make sure you ring the bell for notifications so when we do go live, you'll be alerted and know exactly what's going on. Enjoy the new studio. I've changed it up a little bit. We've dropped the green screen for now. We'll see how this all works. Tell me what you think about it. This is my first program. I've been sitting here all day kind of going over this. I had to watch this a couple times. The Brutus Beefcake Story. We start out with talking about Ed Leslie being a friend to Hulk Hogan, or the little kid that was around when Hogan and his buddies in his band in Florida were there hanging out. Eventually, Hulk Hogan decided he was going to break into the wrestling business. He called up Ed Leslie and asked him if he wanted to go with him. So they would train 2 times a day, 6 days a week, every day for 12 to 14 months. And then they would get into the wrestling business. Hogan would go to Japan to learn wrestling, then come back and teach Beefcake, and they'd blow it out across the ring. Brutus was initially in the independents on the lower end scene, known as Ed Boulder, Dizzy Hogan. Hogan and Ed Leslie were looked at as brothers, so they played the role as brothers. And then Hogan eventually would go on to the WWE, and he would bring along Brutus or Leslie, who would come up there and become Brutus the Barber Beefcake. Initially, he went in dressed up as Chippendale and introduced himself to Vince. Vince loved it and laughed, and Brutus became a thing. Brutus Beefcake initially tagged up as the Dream Team with Greg the Hammer Valentine. They went on to win the tag team titles. We talk about that, which is awesome. And then eventually him getting him and Greg the Hammer Valentine's being broken up, and Brutus Beefcake going on his own, and they threw a white jacket at him and some scissors and told him he was going to be the barber. He threw a fit until Hulk Hogan came in and calmed it down and talked about what he could do with this new idea, how he was going to play out Brutus the Barber Beefcake, and became one of the greatest legends in WWE history. Brutus the Barber Beefcake was great, a great character. You loved him, his fancy, coming out and cutting people's hairs, putting him in a sleeper. It was a great time when Brutus the Barber Beefcake came out. Unfortunately, Brutus the Barber Beefcake was wind up having a tragic incident. Later in his career, he was off for the 4th of July, having a party at his house, lakefront property, waterfront property, and his buddy had a boat with a parasail on the back. He was taking people parasailing. It was getting towards the end of the night, and they didn't want to run anymore, but one person really wanted to go, and so his buddy's like, fine, and started taking, and Brutus was helping set up everything because the wind had died down and people were holding out the parachute to get it going, and Ed was in the water behind the boat in front of the parasail, and his buddy took off without kind of warning, and Brutus was kind of stuck between the female that was taken off and the boat, and before he could get out of the way or anybody could realize he was in danger, Ed Leslie had turned to see this woman coming at him full speed and took a nasty knee to the face, knocked him down in the water. Brian Blair, part of the Killer Bees, was there and helped to pull out of the water. And it was pretty serious. He had bashed in his whole face. His whole face was destroyed. His nose, his eye sockets, his cheekbones. They talk about his upper jaw was laying on his lower jaw. It was incredibly horrible and bad. He was rushed to the hospital where he lay there. They eventually called in a plastic surgeon, and Brutus was basically like, "Put me out of my misery." But this plastic surgeon was able to rebuild, restructure out of titanium Brutus the Barber Beefcake's face, rebuild it, restructure it, and a man who had a future in wrestling now, pretty much out of the scene. And he would kind of float around, kind of lost in time, but eventually WWE would bring him back for the Barbershop, a talk show where Brutus was the host, where some of the most iconic moments in professional wrestling happened during that era. One of the most iconic was the breakup of the Rockers. Shawn Michaels put Marty Jannetty through the plate glass window of the barber shop. One of the most memorable moments. Eventually, Sid Vicious, or Sid Justice at that time, came to WWE. He was on the barbershop and threw a fit and tore down the barbershop, which ended the barbershop. This was also during the time Hogan and Vince and the steroid issues were going down. And this caused a lot of issues, and Beefcake was kind of let go. Eventually, Hogan would basically save, you know who, and come back, and then we'd see Brutus Beefcake tag up with Hulk Hogan again. This time on a big scale, on a big stage, they were going up against the Money Inc., Ted DiBiase, the $1 Million Man, and IRS, Mike Rotunda. Of course, he was Erwin R. Scheister at the time. They were the tag team champions. They took on Hulk Hogan and the Brutus Beefcake. This is when Beefcake came out in the mask to protect his face. He wanted to see how he felt, how he was going to do. And they had a great match for what it was. Nothing special, nothing over the top, but it was a decent match for who was in the match. Eventually, Brutus would leave. He'd be, Hogan. I mean, he was Hogan's buddy. Hogan made sure where he was, Brutus was, and he was taken care of. Hogan would leave WWE, go off to do movies. Got Brutus into the movies, which was great. Eventually, that didn't work out, and Hogan signed with WCW and Eric Bischoff. And like Bischoff said, wherever Hogan was, this was the price to have Brutus the Barber Beefcake there, or Ed Leslie. And this is where he went through the many gimmicks of the Booty Man, the Man with No Name, these Zodiac, the Butcher, onto the Disciple, and many different gimmicks that he rode through. Eric Bischoff got to a point where he was ready to get rid of Brutus, but never ended. But overall, it was a story. We talked about Ed Leslie. He was married to Missy, who was a Missy Leslie now, who was a fan. Interesting story there. We get a brief interview with Missy Hyatt and her story with Brutus. Brian Knobbs was there. Hogan made some statements in this show. And overall, it was a good show. Probably not the best out of the season so far. This would have been my least favorite show. You got to learn some of the history of Brutus Barber Beefcake, which was great, and his story, and then getting inducted into the Hall of Fame. Eventually, him and Hogan had a major falling out. They didn't really get into it. Nobody would really say why. Speculation, rumors are out there. You can be the best judge of that. Anyways, this has been the Dark Side of the Ring. It was the Brutus Barber Beefcake, the Dark Side of the Ring, the face. Saving face, the Brutus Beefcake story. Thankfully, Brutus is okay. He recovered. He's doing his thing. And it was a decent episode. If you want to learn more about Brutus, go to the Dark Side of the Ring. Watch this, Vice TV. So far, everyone's been good. This one just didn't hit like some of the other ones were. I was really wanting to see this one because I loved Brutus back in the day, but this one didn't really do much for me. So if you like Brutus, go check it out. Go learn his history. It's a good time. Dark Side of the Ring has been a great series to watch through and through, though. So if you're interested, go watch it. And for now, I'm going to get out of here so I can go watch Dynamite. So I can be back here in a little bit to give you a full review on Dynamite. So be ready, be here. Make sure you ring that bell for notifications. Give this a thumbs up. Drop your comments below what you thought of Brutus the Barber Beefcake. Tell me what you thought of this Dark Side of the Ring episode. Otherwise, make sure you ring that bell for notifications and go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Join the Value Wrestling family. We are growing quickly. We are going fast, and we got a lot coming forward. We're going to get real excited here real soon. So join us. Be a part of the Value Wrestling family. I'm going to get out of here. Go watch AEW Dynamite, and we'll be back in a little while.